Everything for me is just fun. It's just like me enjoying myself. I haven't ever felt like, fuck, I don't want to do this today. It's always been like, great, a new opportunity. Let's see where life takes us today.
Welcome to Making Conversation with me, Grant Brydon, a podcast about music, creativity and careers. For this series, I've sat down with a range of artists and creative professionals in order to learn about how their unique experiences and perspectives can help us in our creative and business practices. For this episode, I spoke to photographer and co-founder of Places+Faces, Ciesay. He took some time out of his busy schedule between throwing sold-out parties to preparing for the release of his latest clothing drop to share the journey so far, including growing up between Gambia and London, the importance of travel in his work, and how he's been able to build relationships with artists that have allowed him candid access as a photographer, and how he's been able to make a successful business out of his lifestyle, the things he'd likely be doing whether he was getting paid to or not. I've been starting all of the conversations by asking the same question, which is, what is the first memory you have of like some music affecting you?
I think one of the earliest music memories for me was listening to Mace's Harlem World album.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that, I think, being the first album that I ever owned when I was young. I could probably owned others, but I remember that distinctively. Harlem World and then Double Up album, his like second album. But yeah, Harlem World album for me was like, my favorite album. Still one of my favorite albums to now, just cause like, I don't know, it's just, I think that album and I don't know if you remember that TV show Nickelodeon called Cousin Skeeter.
Right.
It was like this like, it was like a black show in Nickelodeon, and then they had this like puppet who was like a cousin, but they didn't acknowledge he was a puppet. It was like he was like a part of the family, but they just acted like he was a puppet. Like he was like a puppet, but it was like a real person in the show. And I think like the people that did the soundtrack, I think it was Total, that song "Tell Me What You Want From Me." I think they were on the TV show, and they did the soundtrack for the show. I can just remember like that album and that show were like the two shows I watched growing up. And the album I listened to and the show I watched growing up in the 90s.
Yeah, that's a much cooler first album than I think
Yeah.
I ever had. But how did you end up with that album?
I think it was given to me by my cousin, who's more of like a sister to me, because my family, like, I'm the eldest. It's just me and my little sister, and then my mom's sister, she has like a son and a daughter as well, but the daughter's older and the son's younger. And I grew up with them more of like a brother and sister relationship than a cousin to cousin. We were so close. Like they lived with me in London. When we all moved back to Gambia, we lived together. So my cousin at the time, I can't remember how, she probably like 16. Yeah, she's probably like 15, 16, and she had the album, so I'd always like sneak and like listen to the album to the point where like I'd go to bed with the album, and then she just ended up giving it to me. So that's
how old were you then at that time?
Maybe like 7 years old, maybe even younger. Could have been like 6.
Yeah.
Between 6 and 7 year old.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like still in the 90s, like before 2000. So I was born in 92. So I feel like I would have had the album in like 98 maybe.
Yeah. And this is in London at this point?
Yes, in London.
Okay. And you just mentioned you moved back to... So you were born in London?
Yeah, I was born in London. I lived in London until I was 7.
Cool.
And then I moved to Gambia, which is in West Africa, where my family is originally from, until I was like 13, 14. And then I moved back to London after that.
What was the move for?
I just wanted to go for like a holiday because my mom was going, and then they saw that I had such a good time, so they were like, they just like kept me there.
Right.
And it was one of the, like, it was my favorite times, like that 7-year period, like one of the most fun times. My life's fun now, but just like growing up and then living there, because I feel like a lot of people, especially a lot of people of color, they don't really know their roots. It could be maybe because of slavery, that their parents don't know their backgrounds, or just because like their parents never introduced them to that part of their life. And I was lucky enough to been able to live like in London, but also go to Gambia and live there and experience what I experienced, and then move back to London having the benefit of living in both.
In both, yeah. What was it? What was the music like when you were living in Gambia? What were you kind of getting over there?
When I moved back to Gambia, my dad was like a super hip hop head, so he had like a bunch of like CDs. He had the Snoop Dogg album. I can't remember their name, but I remember the cover because it was when Snoop Dogg was signed to Master P. So, you know, all the albums were like the dogs and the chains, like the super crazy Photoshop with like the dogs and the chains and the big mansions. So I remember that album, listening to that. But also Gambia is a very reggae inspired country.
Okay. So
like I listened to a lot of reggae growing up as well because my dad would listen to it. So I grew up listening to like Ciesay and Buju Banton and Morgan Heritage, like a lot of like real reggae vibes. I didn't really listen to much more hip hop until I moved back to London, but there was still like stuff that people would play, you know, like when 50 Cent came out, that I think that globally, like he was the biggest rapper like globally. And I remember like Nelly was pretty big out there too, but Gambia is a very like reggae and like dancehall. They love that out there.
And then when you moved back to London from there, like what was that experience like, and why did you want to move back to London?
Moving back, it wasn't hard to adjust because I'd even when I was in Gambia, I'd still like travel. Like I'd probably come back to London for like a holiday, or even like America or somewhere. Like I even went to Kosovo, so it's not like I was like in Gambia and then never left Gambia. We were still like going on holiday. It was just, I guess for me, I didn't grow up listening to grime. Actually, but I mean, I say that, but whenever I tell people the first grime song I heard was Dizzy Rascal, it's just a Rascal, they're like, oh, that's a fine place to start. But for me, I was assuming there was way more other songs that I missed out, and then I grew up like trying to catch up. So there's a lot of things that I missed out on that I caught up on, or I just like completely just said, you know what, I can't get into this. I've missed that mark, so let me just leave that alone. I guess the biggest change was the weather.
Yeah.
Like Gambia is a very like hot country. Like it's called the smiling coast of Africa because it's so sunny and beachy and stuff. And then moving back to London where it's grey. And this was, I think it was 2005 or 2006. So yeah, it was very conservative.
Yeah.
And then that's when like knife crime was at its peak. So I feel like that was a very dark time to be in London. And yeah, it was quite a different thing, but I'm glad I moved back then and not later, just because I was able to kind of like fend my way through things. Like, you know, like 13 is kind of like the age where I feel like you really start the initial maturing stages, and then kind of like figuring out like subtly where your life wants to be. Not like, obviously it's a lot of pressure, but still 13 is like, cool, that's like year 9, and then obviously year 10, year 11, year 12, and then you're in like sixth form or college. So then you have to start kind of really like placing your life a little bit, just kind of thinking, do you want to be a lawyer or a fireman or a photographer or a business owner or a banker, or, you know. So I think for me it was the perfect time for me to come back to then see if I want to carry on living in London, or would I rather move back to Gambia and just continue living there.
So when you were in school and you had those choices to kind of deal with, at that time, what were you kind of looking to become?
I was always into media and movies, so like I love like watching movies from a young age, and I knew I always wanted to do something in the media industry. At that age, I was probably thinking more of becoming a director, which I still want to do. Like, I've directed stuff, but I do want to go into making short films, which I think is going to happen eventually. Well, no, I know it's going to happen eventually. Yeah, at that age. Actually, that's a lie. It was acting. I was more into acting. So, like, I did, like, a lot of, like, theater.
Right.
And, like, dramatical pieces. Just, like, school plays and stuff. I was always, like, in all the school plays. So, it was more expressive arts that I was into. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember any particular roles that you played?
I think I remember playing Scrooge.
Right.
In that Christmas thing.
Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Like, I remember playing Scrooge. Because it was always like, bah, humbug. And, like, I remember that. So, I think that's what I remember, yeah.
When did you first start taking pictures?
I started taking pictures literally when I started Places+Faces. Like, it wasn't like no training before that. It was I took pictures by accident, to be honest. Because what happened is I was in New York, and I had like a camera, so I was like recording things, but my laptop stopped working. I couldn't edit videos on my laptop anymore. I think my free trial was done, or there was like a problem with my laptop, so I couldn't edit videos. And I was like, damn, I'm here, so what am I gonna do? Then I was like, I don't know how to take pictures, but fuck it, I'm gonna try at least. So then I'd like get into all these events and then attempt taking pictures, and I'll take some, and then I would send them to Souls, who's like my business partner, Places+Faces, and he would be in London. Then he'd edit the pictures, just the saturations, and like make them lighter. Like, when I look back on them now, all the pictures were horrible, but because they were so bad. Just like how we edited, it looked like early Instagram filters.
Yeah.
But when he'd edit them, and then that was like our system. So then I learned, obviously, and then as time grew on, I became a better photographer. Like, I used different cameras and just found the right system that worked for us.
Yeah, because I remember, I think the first time that I met you, you were shooting video.
Yes.
And I don't know, I assume that was before
Places+Faces. But I was like doing videos within Places+Faces, because then I'd do this like these episodic like vlog things, where like anywhere I go or wherever I do, I just always document and make it into this like 10-minute like episode. So it could be like, oh, I'm in like Tokyo or New York, and it's New York Fashion Week, here's Skepta, here's Virgil, here's Travis, stuff like that. Not me presenting it, but it's just these like episodic things. So I always kept the video aspect to this day. So I always, like, I don't really have that much time to, like, film stuff myself. I do, but not as much as I want to, because back then I was, like, filming everything, and now it's, like, cool, I want to film this, but I don't have time to edit it and all of that stuff. But, I'm getting back into the groove of things.
Yeah. So when you were in school and kind of doing this, like, acting and stuff, and then getting into media, what... Did you go to university? Yeah,
I went to university. I don't like talking about university.
What did you study?
I studied media production.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything, like, literally from the age of 13, maybe even earlier, but even earlier, because I was doing drama in Gambia as well. But from like the age of 13, I was just like super focused on doing some sort of like creative thing, but it was always to do with either like filming, acting, and then eventually became photography.
So when you had this experience where your laptop breaks and you're kind of doing photos, what was it about that made you put a brand name on it straight away?
Well, it was just more, so we just wanted to because we wanted to put this photo somewhere, and I didn't want to just keep uploading it on Instagram. And we just wanted to create a page that I would post my stuff that I'm in New York, and then if Souls is in while Souls was in London, he'd post the pictures. And then, I think what inspired the name is because I used to go into the Billionaire Boys Club store a lot while I was in New York, hoping I'd meet Pharrell. And then I'd always see the book like Faces and Places. And then I think like my brain and my subconscious like just jumbled the words together, and then it was like, oh, Places+Faces. Like, it was literally like, I told Souls, yo, let's make a Tumblr. He was like, what should we call it? And I was literally like, man, I don't know, just call it Places+Faces. And then that's how it kind of like, the name just became the name. So it wasn't even like me thinking of it like for 6 months, like I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna call it. It was literally like in a kitchen in Harlem, and it's like, all right, cool, let's create something called Places+Faces. Let's buy the domain straight away so we can own it. It's like, I was literally like so forward thinking. I was like, let's own the domain. It's only like £5 on GoDaddy. Like, let's make sure we copyright everything just so that, this is our thing. And I didn't know what it was going to become. I thought it was going to be like a hobby of ours that we do after our 9-to-5s, because he was working at Sainsbury's at the time.
Right.
I didn't have a job at the time, but I was always like, just maneuvering around or like doing like freelance gigs to make money. But there was always the back of my mind, I was thinking, damn, I'm going to have to get a 9-to-5 one day. So if I do get a 9-to-5, this will probably just be something I do when I have time.
Yeah. What do you think it was that taught you to be so forward thinking? Because I feel like a lot of people would have, if they were in your position, would have just uploaded it to their Instagram. And obviously, like you said, you knew you wanted it to be more than that. Yeah,
I mean, I think one of the, like, I think watching a lot of shows and stuff, like those like programs where like, like there was my favorite show is How to Make It in America.
Yeah.
And like that, I watched that when I was in uni. Well, I was still in uni at the time I was in Places+Faces, but I probably watched it 6 months to a year prior to starting Places+Faces. I think Places+Faces started in my second year of uni, maybe second going on to third. And this show, like I started watching when I was in my first year of uni. It was recommended by a friend. And like I just saw how, these two guys from New York were like moving around and hustling. And so in my head, I was like the same. I was like, okay, I'm in New York. I'm in the LES. I've got to maneuver. I've got to hustle. Damn, like, okay, cool. They got fucked over because they had this they had this company that was doing well, then this guy wanted to buy into it, and then he like was trying to buy the copyright, so I should copyright already, so if anyone tries to steal the name, I own the trademark and all that stuff. I think like that show was like in my head, like just telling me like, okay, cool, this is the mistakes they were doing, you shouldn't do this. Even though it's a TV show, it taught me a lot. So.
Yeah, it's so annoying that it got cancelled.
Yeah, it's like,
I feel like it's inspired so many people as well.
And I feel like as much as I wanted to come back, I don't know if it would work in this this day and age, because that was a time when like iPhones weren't that popular, and just as a TV show, it was like the real hustle and bustle of things. Whereas I feel like to that essence, that was like a nice New York essence, even like the characters, even though like Kid Cudi was in it, he's not like Kid Cudi the megastar he is now.
Yeah.
So you can truly believe Kid Cudi's character as being this like pot smoking, dog walking guy. But if you see him do that role now, it's like, no, this Kid Cudi's been in Fast and Furious and all these things, and like so it's just like embodies a certain time that I would have loved to have been in, but I can't, so I watched this show. Right. But if they did it now,
it would probably be someone just sat looking at their iPhone, sending messages.
Yeah, okay, I want to design this piece, and then just on Instagram, and like I don't really like shows that use like real life social media. It's cool. It's like, oh, this guy just sent a tweet. When I hear something, I cringe. I'm like, oh my god. Even though it's like real, it's like I don't want to see these things. I want to see Instagram and Twitter and all these TV shows, because it just makes it cringy for me anyway.
Do you think that kind of like interest in that hustle like inspired your work ethic? Because obviously even from very early, I remember things of like you going straight after a gig to upload some pictures to get things. It wasn't like you were like waiting until days later and then uploading them. It's like everything felt like real time.
Yeah, 100%. It was just, we wanted to put out the content as soon as we took it, because we wanted to be first. If we were at a show taking pictures from the pit, which we've done. We don't do that no more, but we've done it. If there's like 4 other photographers next to us all taking pictures, we wanted to be the first ones there, so that if the artist was going to repost or retweet, then potentially be our pictures, because we put it out super quick, and then maybe their management or labels or companies would see how quick we were at taking pictures, making them look nice, and then uploading them. Then they might hire us to do content for their companies or labels or artists and all that. So it's always that mentality of just having the best content out as quick as possible for them. Yeah.
Did you ever use watermarks?
We did for a little while. I'm not against watermarks. Watermarks are cool. I've watermarked pictures. I haven't done so in a long time. Maybe just cause for me, it's like pictures are you can if somebody wanted to steal your picture, all they have to do is just edit out the watermark. It's like everyone has Photoshop. It's not hard to remove you could crop a watermark out of it. So, I just like pictures how they are and how they're taken. So there was for a while, even to this day, really, I've never myself edited a picture, because I always take it, and then from what I see and what's been presented is what I want to show the world. And yeah, so with watermarks, we've done a couple times. I remember I watermarked the Kanye photo, because that was like I had to watermark that photo to let people know we took this picture, But now I'm not so fussed about watermarking it. If I took it, then cool. Because some of the pictures I get now, most of them, the access that I have, not a lot of photographers have those access. So when I do take a picture, people know I'm the only person that could have taken that picture at that time. So if someone tries to steal and say it's theirs, then it's easy to be okay, when did you take this? Where did you take it? The artist will come yo, who are you? So yeah.
Because I've had a few conversations recently with young photographers about watermarks and their kind of concerns about their images getting stolen. But I kind of advised them, in my opinion, and I just wondered what you thought, that it kind of feels like you're probably going to lose more opportunities by having a big watermark on your image than you are going to gain.
Yeah, I mean, we, even our watermarks, so little watermarks, they'll just be at the bottom of the picture, just very subtle. It's you see Places+Faces. But yeah, I mean, it's photos are art, and you don't have Picasso, writing a giant Picasso for you to know it's a Picasso. But even though Picasso probably at that time could only do that certain style of art, I'm not against them. It's I feel different people are in different positions. So, saying that, they might lose opportunities. I know there's some young photographers that are just scared that they'll get their pictures taken, because a lot of these days, even the artists would just get tagged in the picture. They'll see the picture, they'll see the person that's tagged them, but they'll just they won't even ask for the picture. They'll just screenshot it, crop it, and put it on their Instagram. And then, you have the photographer in the comments yo, I took this picture, tag me, because they want opportunities, because, they obviously paid money. If it's film, they paid money to develop the picture, so they feel they should at least get tagged to, recoup something. Even if it's 10 more Instagram followers, that's them at least benefiting off of it. But if they don't get tagged, if no one knows they took the picture, then for them, it's they get heartbroken by that, because they have no way of showing that they took the picture unless they show the original. But the person's fans that have seen the picture on his account or her account may not see this photographer's work. So that's what I'm not I'm not against it. I just don't do it personally, but I understand why people do it. Yeah,
of course. How do you feel when your work gets kind of used out of context like that sometimes?
It used to bum me out a lot. Now it doesn't happen to me as much, because I only really nowadays take pictures of people that I really like or have relationships with, and when I do, these people always credit me because like it's a good photo, I hope, and and for us, yeah, it's just like a relationship thing. So it's like if I took a picture of like an Amine or a Buddy or even like a Skepta, they'll always tag because like they we're all friends and stuff. So I'm not too like bothered about it now, but I used to be when it happened a lot. But I think it's just, I guess it's when you grow as a person and as a person with the work, like for your skills, when you're at, I don't necessarily say a certain level, but when you've demanded the respect, then I feel like then people credit you more, if that makes sense. It's like if you're a photographer just starting up and you're taking these pictures and someone doesn't credit them, then that's not necessarily because the person doesn't respect them, but the person's not like
it's often like just they're unaware, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't necessarily know what they had to do to get that picture out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever a personal thing or a disrespectful thing even. It's more...
It's like, they kind of feel like, oh, we get taking pictures, we're getting... People take so many pictures of us a day, and it's not defending them, but I just feel like in their heads, I think people are taking so many pictures of a day, they're probably profiting off of us already by like maybe selling these pictures or these things. So the artist probably just thinks that, oh, okay, this is a cool photo of me. This photographer probably got paid by the venue or got paid by a company to take this picture of me. I like it, so he's probably getting what he's getting out of it, and I'm posting a nice photo, not knowing that some photographers generally aren't getting paid for it. That person just was there to happen to take that photo and was hoping that he could get it across to the artist in a more legit way, maybe like emailing them or sending it to the management, but artists probably go off Instagram and then posted it. So again, it's sometimes the photographer might have to be more smart on, not necessarily smart, but more vigilant on how they are presenting the photos, because if you take a picture and then put it in your Instagram right away, then that already gives the option for that picture to get taken. But maybe if you take the picture and then send it to the artist management or even DM the artist, like, hey, I took pictures of you at XYZ, would love to send them over to you, and then the artist might reply and be like, okay, cool, send over the pictures. And then when you're doing so, just like, oh, please can you make sure you credit the right handles, and then when that happens, that opens a dialogue, and then that either the artist is like, all right, cool, this guy seems like a cool guy, I'm gonna credit him, or I'm just gonna credit because this guy took a picture of me, or B, the artist could just be an asshole and just look at that, see what the guy has done, and still take the picture and not credit the person. It's like it happens. It's pretty shit for the people that happens to. It's happened to me. But even so, even if it's like a picture that, I remember even taking a picture of Lil Wayne, and like Lil Wayne posted it, and he didn't tag, but in my head, I wasn't even like, people were like, oh, Lil Wayne posted your picture. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I wasn't even like that, like phased by it. Like, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, on to the next thing. Like, I'm not even, because I'm working on so many different things, even with like photos and stuff, that I myself am an artist, and my work, people know my work, and people are knowing what we are. Places+Faces. Like, I don't want people to look at Places+Faces as just like a hip-hop photography thing, I want people to look at Places+Faces as more as a journey between Souls and I, of these two guys traveling around the world, taking pictures, and they happen to meet an A$AP Rocky in Paris, and this is that part of that journey. But it's not focused about who did they shoot today, it's more so where did they go and who did they end up shooting while they were there. But the focus is always on us rather than what we're going to do. Who we're shooting.
Do you think that, though, especially when you're dealing with faces, do you think that often there's also a misunderstanding that the person in the photo, the person whose face it is, thinks that it belongs to them?
Yes, I mean,
photographer.
Some artists are naive and do feel that whatever is taken of them, that they own it. But I remember hearing this thing that photographers are allowed to sell the pictures of the person without even getting consent, or they can profit off those photos without getting consent from the artist. I wouldn't necessarily do that, but I know that that's a thing, like people can do that. So maybe the artist, not defending them, but maybe the artist might think that's happening already, so that's why they feel entitled for the pictures to, even if it's just an Instagram post, and then the photographer could then be like, okay, cool, I took this picture of Quavo, I'm gonna sell it on my website. And maybe Quavo thinks that's what's happening, but maybe maybe it does happen, and sometimes it doesn't. So.
Yeah, of course. How do you go from just sort of being a guy with a camera to building these relationships and getting this kind of access that you have?
Like I've always, with what we do or what I do, I always make sure to develop some sort of a dialogue, even attempt to start a dialogue. I could take a picture of, an ASAP Ferg. Let's say before I ever meet him, if I took a picture of ASAP Ferg, I could take the picture and just like walk away, and that's it. Or I could, B, which is what I usually do, is cool, taking a picture like, hey, I took these pictures of you, I'd love to get them to you some way. Do you have some way I can send them to you? And then if he like really wants the pictures, he'll like give you his email address or some way of sending it to him. And from there, that could be in New York, and then he might fly to London and see me in London. I'm like, oh, you're that photographer. If he remembers, you're the photographer that shot me in New York. What are you doing here? Oh, I live here. Oh, you do? And then start making more of a dialogue. And you might not even take pictures of him that time, but you just, conversate. Well, that's what I did anyway. Like, I feel like everyone's different on how they approach people, but I always just try to establish some sort of a dialogue and an approachability, and then from there it's now it's easier because a lot of people know about the brand, well, I hope, so I don't have to do too much talking about it. But then I'd always have to be like, yeah, this is explaining what I do. But now it's like, oh yeah, I do something called Places+Faces. Oh, Places+Faces, I've heard of that, my friend wears that, or I've seen your photos, or I've heard about your parties, or I've been to your parties. And then it's just kind of like, it kind of eliminates like the long conversation of explaining. It's just like, okay, cool, this is what I do. Oh, you've heard of it? Cool. Let's take a photo or something.
Yeah. And do you think that in some ways the photos themselves are a sort of dialogue with the artist? Because obviously there's artists that you've shot multiple times in multiple different places, and that kind of feels like there's somewhat of a timeline itself there.
Yeah, no, 100%, because a lot of the artists that I'm close with that I've shot has always been in like different places, like let's just use Ciesay for example, because that's one of my good friends, and that's probably one of the first people I shot when I started Places+Faces. I met him in an elevator in the Bronx, and that's when he was working on the Trap Lord album. And then I met him in the elevator, we took some pictures there, and then I've shot him in multiple places: London, Paris, New York, LA, Texas as well, but I've shown him in all these different places. But so that is like the dialogue of photos that we've taken in all these different locations. Then we always like reflect on them, like, oh, remember that shoot we did in LA, or remember that time we were in New York, remember the time we were in Paris, or in time we were in, so that is like, the pictures do create dialogue.
What makes like a Places+Faces artist? Because I feel like there's an educational element as well. It's like you could be really into trap music, but then when you like say buy the magazine, you're gonna get like J Balvin on the cover, or Coffee on the cover, or like there's a lot of different people that you're bringing in, and it's like you're introducing people, I feel like, a lot to different audiences. So what ties them all together for you? It's
just how like myself and Souls, just like how we listen to music, because him and I, we're both like, we like the same things, but we also have our different like music that we listen to. So like Coffee, I really liked Coffee because like I said, like growing up in Gambia, there was a huge like reggae influence there. And then when I heard Coffee, I feel like she was like a breath of fresh air, but still the same sort of vibes I grew up listening to. But then she was so new that maybe it's because I haven't been keeping up with it, or maybe I don't think that there's been such a new reggae artist. Like there's a lot of like dancehall artists, but like reggae, I haven't heard of like a new reggae artist in so long that when she came about, I think she took the world by storm. So when I had the chance to shoot her, I like just grabbed it because it was like she was amazing. I really liked her stuff. And then with J Balvin, when I did the collaboration with Guess, he like had worn the pieces. There's a point where he was like wearing it every day on tour, and I was like, oh, this guy, he's pretty cool. He understands the culture because like a lot of reggaeton artists, they're like, they just have like a certain look, but I even met like his creative directors, and they were also saying that how, and yeah, he's one of the first reggaeton artists to kind of switch his look to even him wearing like Louis Vuitton like by Virgil, and like changing his hair color and wearing like the streetwear brands and the high fashion brands. They weren't really doing those things. So I could tell that he was, his music's different, but he's speaking the same language and sort of culture, and even like how he dresses and stuff. So I really like was drawn to that, and yeah, we did that shoot. But Souls, he's a big like hip hop, like old school hip hop fan. So but even with that, he loves artists like Logic and like who else is he likes Logic and like Mac Miller and all these people as well. That's why we all like Mac Miller, but like Asher Roth and like all these sort of artists. I like Asher Roth too, and it was just kind of like just us blending in what we like with each other, and then putting in the magazine, and then also showing artists that we when we travel, that we meet, and then they're either like the most popping in their city or about to be the most popping in the world. For example, we had this artist called Dean, who's this Korean R&B. Like, who would have thought? Because everybody, when people think of like Korea, think of K-pop, but then you have this Korean R&B guy who's worked with like Sid and all these guys.
Anderson .Paak as well.
Yeah, Anderson .Paak. And then also with Daniel Ciesay, when we met him, I met him in a random film store in Toronto.
Right.
And he was coming to London like 2-3 months to do his first ever show, which was at the Hoxton Bar and Kitchen. And we just linked up and we became friends, and then we did the shoot, and then 6 months later, he became one of the biggest artists right now. So it's just always about us. And you
did his tour match, right?
Yeah, we did like the collab on the tour match just because we have like a good relationship. So it's like, for us, it's always about showing what we like, and also presenting, educating, presenting people, the people that we like. They don't have to be like superstars or anything, It's just, in a way, just showing what we love to listen to. And I feel like that's what makes our magazine a bit different from other magazines, because we're, again, just really just showing what our interests are and the pictures that we take and the places that we travel to, rather than this is the hottest rapper coming out right now, here is the press photos and all that things, which is cool for some mags, but for us, we did it in a different way to not be boxed in.
Without having to name any names or anything, I wondered, is there any artists that say that you do listen to, that you are a fan of, but you feel like it doesn't fit the brand, so you wouldn't necessarily take pictures of? Or is it a case of pretty much if you like it, then it's Places+Faces? Yeah, like there's definitely, I'm trying to think, but I don't think there's an artist that we would say doesn't fit in with the brand. Like, if we like the person, then we're gonna like shoot the person or work with the person because we like the person. It's not about people influencing us, it's about us influencing people. We want to show people what we like and who we like and who we really down with. This is artist that I will name called Deb Never, who's like this works with Brockhampton and stuff.
Yeah, but like I've known her for 2 years prior. She was actually in the second magazine. I didn't even know she made. She didn't put out any music at those times. So when I met her through these other girls that are cool, like Ghana, Tavia, who's also dating one of the guys from Brockhampton. But these are just a cool collective of girls that just hang out, like take pictures of each other. They all model and all that. And then watching her now, she's been on the Brockhampton album. She's been on the Dominic Fike tour. She's just dropped her debut like EP and stuff. And I took pictures of her then. I'll still take pictures of her now and put her in my magazine. not knowing what she really did. I just knew she was hanging out with these girls, but now I feel like she's gonna go on to be one of the biggest singers.
Obviously, we've talked a lot about photography, but the brand's a lot bigger than that. I wondered what was the next thing that came after.
After photography, it was the clothing.
Right.
So, the clothing actually started as more of a business card for the photography, because we made these 2 hoodies with the reflective logo, and when we were on stage taking pictures, like when people were like taking pictures, then when the hoodie reflects, you'll see like Places+Faces, and then it'll go into the site to then see the pictures. But then people were growing interest into the hoodies, and then we started selling them, and they were like selling, so we started making more clothes, and then it became like collections and merch pieces and all that stuff, and to the point where we did a collaboration with Guess, we did a collaboration with Gentle Monster, which is like a South Korean sunglasses company. We did collabs with Kumba. We made incense. We've done like a lot of like clothing, but also lifestyle products too.
Obviously, when we talked at the start, you were saying about wanting to have a media company and that. So the photography stuff all kind of obviously makes sense with that, whereas the fashion stuff's like a bit different. Obviously, your kind of dream, I guess, changed a little bit, or like progressed over to that. At what point did you start to sort of get really passionate about that side of it?
Well, the clothing, it was just like, for us, I guess the passion came from knowing what we could make. It was like, cool, we've made these hoodies and these t-shirts. If we make a pouch bag, how would those do? And the pouch bags came out and people really were drawn to that. Okay, cool, let's make other items. And it's like, cool, let's stop printing on blanks. Why don't we like make our own custom fits? And then it was like, wow, we actually made this type of thing. We made a waterproof jacket. We made like our own hoodies that are like 450 GSM. It was just more like every time we make a new product, we're in awe, because it's like, wow, this is what we've made now. Sick. Let's try and make a bathrobe. Let's try and make a reflector. You know what I mean? It's just always like just making new things. And then that's where like the passion with the clothing, with the clothing side of things came. And then we just wanted to make more lifestyle products too, because we wanted to have that, like stronghold with Places+Faces. Like, cool, we have like this nice clothing. Why don't we make like furniture as well? Like when we make we did these Japanese style chairs with this company called Medicom, who do like stuff with like Bape and Supreme, and then we did like furniture with them, and that was we were supposed to sell it, but it was so sick that we just were selfish and kept it for ourselves. Right. And so it's just, I think the passion for it is just more so us just like knowing what we can make and the challenges of making something and ending up making it, even if it takes like a year or two.
Yeah. And then I guess it kind of starts going full circle as well, because then the clothes and the lifestyle items end up in the photos, or you end up giving product to artists, which then helps to develop your relationship with them. Yeah. How has that kind of worked from your point of view, that like full circleness of it?
It's worked pretty amazingly, because everything we do kind of ties in with itself. We can make some sick clothes. We could like gift it and shoot it on the artist that we fuck with, and then we can put it in the magazine. And then when we do like a party, we can have that artist come perform our party and probably wearing our clothes. So then it just kind of like, it's more of like a circle rather than us putting more time into different things. It's like we everything pushes the other thing, so then it expands everything for us, and then it kind of, I don't necessarily legitimizes things, but it's like, okay, cool, we want to say to someone, hey, we want to shoot you for our magazine. Oh, who's been in the magazine? J Balvin, Coffee, XYZ. Cool, we want to be a part of it. Cool, we want to style you for the magazine. Okay, that's cool. Instead of us trying to go and like grab pieces from like all these PR companies like the Gucci's and all these things, why don't we shoot them in our clothes, because we make clothes. And then
and I guess it also means that you're having a even more active influence on the culture rather than the photography, which is kind of documenting what's happening. I guess you're like actually making a change there with what the aesthetic is, and
like
what
influencing it, and it's like, then with the events, it's like, we started doing parties at Ace Hotel, and then now these parties have grown to tours around the world in like Tokyo, London, Paris, New York, LA, Atlanta, South Korea, Bangkok, Singapore, and then some of the artists that we like, we will bring them to some of these places. We brought gigs to Tokyo 2 years ago. We brought Suspect to Tokyo. Last year we brought my good friend Cassian to Tokyo this year, and then what do they end up wearing when they're performing these shows? Places+Faces gear, and then that kind of shows the people that at the parties that they're wearing, not shows them, but like it's like they're like marketing the brand for the brand at the brand's event, so it's all like it ties in with each other.
On that kind of business model side of it, what influences you? Where do you get these ideas from?
On the business side of things, I feel like the party model for me was sort of influenced by Ben Trill back in the day. Like I remember when like Virgil and Matthew and Heron were like DJing as Ben Trill, and they were just like being these like places like all like dressed up in the same clothing sometimes, and then they would like play like the music and just go crazy at these parties, and then they built like a party culture with that. So I feel like the move into parties was subtly influenced by like the early Ben Trill days. And then with the business, like just doing all these like events and all these artists and all these things, I feel like it wasn't influenced by anything particularly, but it was just a thing that, this makes sense to do. It was like, from the first mag, like, cool, we shot this mag. And I remember Souls shot Lil Yachty at his like first show in London, and Lil Yachty knew the brand, so Souls brought him some pieces, and then he was wearing it at his concert, and then Souls like took all these pictures of him like on stage, and then just backstage like Frank Ocean, he was wearing the clothing. And so it's like, sick, we've got pictures of Lil Yachty in London and he's also wearing our clothes, and it's for the magazine. We should just do more things like that, of just like shooting artists that we like in our stuff. And that's how we kind of progressed into what it is now.
And I remember we had a really early conversation when you were thinking about doing a magazine, but outside of the magazine, the majority of this stuff has existed online. People are looking at it through their phone or whatever, whereas like now you've got 3 volumes? Four volumes of this magazine.
Yeah.
What was it that made you want to start printing it? And also the magazine format itself's interesting because it's just literally photos and there's no copy really.
I guess to make the magazine, we just wanted to have a physical place where we can put our photos before we actually make a book, because the end goal is to like make a book. So the magazines to us is sort of like mixtapes or like EPs. That's how we look at them. It's like we're dropping these mixtapes and then to like prep for the book. And we just wanted something that's because on Instagram we might post like 1 or 2 pictures or 3 pictures of like the artist. On Tumblr we might post like 5 pictures of the certain thing, but we might be seeing on like 60 to 100 pictures, or maybe at least like 50 to 100 pictures of this moment. And then when you put on Instagram, I feel like the moment's there, but when you post the next picture, that moment's gone, and then people are focusing on this moment. But we wanted to make a magazine so that people can like have it with them, and then they can like flick through. It's more of like a coffee table thing, more of like a coffee table type thing. And then also it's easier for us to, I feel, market Places+Faces more as not just like an Instagram thing. It's like, hey, we're Places+Faces, we started as photographers, but hey, check out our magazine and we've had XYZ in it, and this is our clothing too, which is in the magazine. So this is why in a way you guys should fuck with us. We just wanted to tell the story in photos, especially if like there's a lot going on, if it's like a time in Milan, here's where we were shooting in Shibuya and now we're in the hotel, and now it's just I want people to just kind of base the stories off of what they see rather than what they read.
Yeah, of course. With the party stuff, I'm interested in the fact that like it's kind of flipped, because previously like your on the other side, you've got the camera, you're taking the pictures, but then suddenly I'm seeing you like on massive stages and you're like DJing and you're on the mic. How was that for you? Like, was it something that you were nervous about at first, or how did you like develop into that role?
Like the photography, I fell into DJing by accident as well. It's like I was in Tokyo and my friend who has that brand, Marche Noir, he was doing like a pop-up and a party in Tokyo, and he needed like one DJ to fill. Like all the DJs were booked, but he needed someone to fill in a certain time. And like Japanese people are very like, they only play to what they're given. Like if you tell someone your time is at 11 to 12, you can't go back and tell them, oh no, can you do 10:30 to 12? They're very like, nope, this is what we're told, this is what we're gonna do. So I was like, I don't know how to DJ that well, but I can try. And then like I was just playing a random music on virtual DJ and people getting crazy to it, and then I was just on the mic like, yeah, right, turn up, and then like it was cool. And then from there I started learning how to DJ better. Like my friend Darky Freaker, who we DJ together at events, I'd watch him a lot DJ till I got the confidence to not use virtual DJ and just use the USB sticks. And then it was just like every show we're doing, it's just like building up the confidence. Like there's still shows that I do now that I'm nervous that I won't speak on a mic, and then he'll probably speak on the mic. But there's other shows where like I'll be super into it too. It's just kind of like depending on I don't want to say my mood, but just how I'm like feeling at that moment. Because like, I've played like super huge stages and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then I've played like decent sized crowds. I'm like, this is cool. But then I might go crazy at the huge stages but be quiet. So it kind of really just depends. I still get nervous, but it's cool.
Yeah, because you always have quite a calm, I feel like quiet, introspective demeanor. So like I was actually really surprised one time when I seen this like huge warehouse and you were like on the mic, and I'm like, that's not really not the Ciesay that I know.
It was influenced by a lot of alcohol.
Yeah. What do you when you do a DJ set, what's your process there? Do you prepare for it? Do you kind of know roughly what you're gonna play, or are you kind of just going off the crowd?
I go off the crowd, but I have like certain songs that I play that will always like have the crowd go crazy. But then, I'll always like play stuff that that I just want to hear as well. Because I feel like a lot of like DJs now, they kind of play to the crowd, but they play what they know 100% the crowd wants to hear. So it's like, if you play Mo Bamba, Sicko Mode, any really Travis Scott or Drake song, for your whole set, the crowd's gonna go crazy for that whole set because they're just hearing hits. And for me, I always want to like play other songs that, like even if it's like a few people turning up to it, those few people might tell, at the next event, they might tell their friends, hey, these Places+Faces guys or that Ciesay DJ, he plays weirder stuff, or he plays some other songs, we should go check him out. Because like when you play the same songs, it's cool for DJs that do that. Like I'm not against it. I'm not like saying it's bad. It's just I don't know. It's just like I just want to always just play. Like when I mean by different music, it's that I might play like Daft Punk One More Time, or I might play like Madonna Like a Virgin or something, like just like weird to play.
Weird for the context.
Weird
of
for
weird
context,
of course.
But it's just like I'm, what I mean? It's like I just want to have fun, and I don't want to. Sometimes when I play certain songs, it's kind of like a zombie effect for me. It's like, okay, this song. Okay, this song. But when I'm playing these other songs, and I'm like going like, oh shit, like, and then they go crazy to it too. Like when I play like Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, like people go crazy for that, and then I'm going crazy. And I'll play like Steve Monite, Only You, and people go crazy over that. And then there'll be some people that think like, what the fuck is this? And other people are like, no, this is the shit. And then they influence those people, and then people feel kind of left out because they're like, oh, we don't know this song. We have to research this song, and then the next time it gets played, they go crazy for it. Because again, it's just always introducing people to music that they may not have heard yet.
Yeah, I think that's why I mentioned that kind of educational element earlier, because like going to your nights, you see people who you aren't going to get at the normal like hip hop party that is playing Mo Bamba and Travis Scott and Drake. But they maybe got into it because they like, you know, the clothing or something, and they've turned up at this thing. But then I feel like watching it, as particularly your set, like you say, you're kind of throwing all these like curveballs in, and I feel like that's kind of part of what the brand is to me. At least it feels like it's like people are coming in there because they like one thing, but they're leaving liking something new.
And that's exactly how we try to approach everything. It's just always us like feeling like we're introducing something new to someone, so it doesn't feel like the same event that they've been to 5 times in the past 2 weeks. Like, you know, now like they've done those events and now they've come to this one. It's like, oh shit, this is crazy. Who are these guys? And then that's how I feel like you get booked for more things as well, because it's always like someone in the crowd that, you know, is coming there, and then they could be from an electronic world or something, and I'm like, oh, these guys can also play this range of music. I'm not gonna box them in as just hip-hop DJs. They are DJs, so we can book them for any sort of event, and they can cater but also do whatever.
I wondered, because Places+Faces is such a lifestyle brand, how do you develop for yourself a good work-life balance?
You know what, for me, like the work and life is pretty much the same for me. It's like I wake up super early, like 7 a.m. I'll get to my office by like 11 a.m. and then I'll be working there, but in between working I'm like watching South Park and like stuff like that, and then I'm back into like designing things or like working on the next event. So I never, because I haven't had that many like jobs, I never got into my head what work is supposed to feel like and what life is supposed to feel like. For me, it's all merged into one. Like I'll be like hitting up my manufacturer like 2 a.m. I have these new ideas, sending it through. They're like, this is not work hours. I'm like, damn it, I'm thinking in my head like everybody needs to be like this. Like everybody, not needs to be, but like why am I the one that's thinking of these things and sending it? Like you should be up too. But then after like get into the mode where there's people that really only just work from 9 to 5, and then I have to wait the next day to get them at that time. But for me, I'm always like thinking of new things. So there's never like a disconnect. It's always like work and life is the same thing for me, because I never knew what a regular work thing was.
Do you ever get stressed or burnt out by the amount of stuff that you're doing?
I know. Funny enough, I haven't. I have like a good team that work for me. I don't really get like, because it's all fun for me, you know, everything I'm doing, it's fun. Even the clothing and the manufacturing, like that's probably the most dedicated part. Is like, you know, all the clothing side of things, but even that's still fun for me, because it's, again, my manufacturer's sending me something and the sample might not come out right, so I'm like, oh, okay, make this better. But it's like, wow, okay, he has to make this better. But that's, you know what I mean, everything for me is just fun. It's just like me enjoying myself. I haven't ever felt like, fuck, I don't want to do this today. It's always been like, great, a new opportunity, let's see where life takes us today.
Yeah, I've always thought that it's really inspiring the way that you're able to really remain a music fan. I think that like I see enough people who come in as a music fan, it becomes their career, and then suddenly that fan side sort of drops away. I wondered like if there's anything that you do or any kind of approach that you have to just making sure that you're always remaining a fan and you're always excited about music, basically.
I think for me, I think what keeps me a music fan is traveling and then meeting other artists that are similar to what we have in, like, let's say London and America, but you know, these guys could be from like a Bangkok. Like an example would be this artist called Fum Vil. I can't say his last name. It's like Fum Vilnaput, something like that, where he's this guy from Bangkok. I think he used to live in New Zealand, but I know he lives in Bangkok, and his sound is similar to like a Rex Orange County. And to have like an artist like that in like Southeast Asia and killing it there, and then, you know, and then I've been there and I've met him and he's performed at one of my events, and then me being able to start a relationship with him, and then just hearing his stuff and then coming back and being like, you know, music is is its own language that everybody speaks. They might speak in a different language, but it's still the same tones and melodies. And then coming back to London, and then even with like higher brothers, they're from like China, and they learn music listening to Soulja Boy music video. They learn how to rap and speak English through like Soulja Boy music videos, or even like Rich Brian. And then so I'm always just in awe that there's like so many new artists, that it's not always about America anymore. Like obviously America is like the place that people want to end up in, but you now have all these artists from all around the world that people are now paying attention to. And so I feel like that for me keeps me a music fan, because I'm able to travel and meet them, like, or like be where they're from and stuff, and then seeing how they impact where they're from and their cultures and all that.
Yeah, I think that global like outlook that you have is really important as well, because I feel like it's really easy, especially in a city like London where there's a lot of people passing through. It's very easy to just get kind of lazy and just stuck at like looking at what is right in front of you. Where do you think that outlook came from for you? I
think it's because I've always been traveling, even before Places+Faces. And my mom works for the UN, so she was always like going to these like countries, and then we'd always go over there for like holidays. Like I've been to like Kosovo and Liberia and like Sierra Leone, and then going there and then hearing what people are listening to there, and then coming back to London and then showing it to people. Some people might not get it, some people do, and then might get it over time. And then I think now I'm traveling for myself and for my company, then meeting these artists and listening. I'm like, wow, like, okay, cool. Like, this is what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, is that just traveling and meeting new people, kind of like the music version of boarding, like we taste food and stuff. I'm like, the music version was like, cool, I'm in Bangkok now. Who are we, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
But do you think it also works both ways? Because obviously, like you mentioned before, you'll take a Gigs or a Suspect out of the UK and into a territory that they probably haven't been before and might struggle to reach.
Yeah, I mean, I like to pair people, and so like when we did the Gigs show, it was like Gigs, and there's this rapper called Cole, who's like the biggest rapper in Japan. He was on the Ichima song, and he's actually on the extended version of Nikes, and he's rapping in Japanese, like Frank Ocean's Nike song. He's like rapping in Japanese, and I think he's done a song with Mariah Carey as well. But like, had Gigs and him there, so it's introducing Japanese people to what they know, and then introducing them to what they might not know or may know, but wouldn't have had the chance to see. I'm talking about Gigs, wouldn't have the chance to see him unless they came out to London, or unless he got booked later on to do a show. I just happened to be the guy that did it first, and then it's like vice versa. When like I'm doing parties in London, I'm always trying to have the London connection, but then also mixing it in with somebody not from London to then introduce them or just have their presence there as well.
Yeah, it feels like sort of like juxtaposition is an important. It kind of feels like you bring two things together that in the context of Places+Faces makes sense.
Yes.
But probably if someone else just stuck them on together, it might be kind of weird.
And that's, like what you said exactly in the context of Places+Faces is what I love that people are noticing, is that it makes sense that we do it because of our global outreach and where we've been and what we've done globally, that if we now bring these things together, it makes the perfect sense. But someone else may do it that it doesn't have that connection there, it doesn't feel right because there's not that proper distinct connection.
Yeah. What's the most difficult thing that you think you've had to overcome in your career so far?
Difficult thing is probably like turning down, like saying no to things. Like I've been approached with like a lot of projects or collabs and things that would have made us like a shit ton of money, or would have taken our brand in a certain direction, but I trust myself and my vision that I've turned them down because I know that we're on like a certain path and I want to like focus on this path and don't want to deter it. and I'm not gonna name any names, we've turned down like collabs from like crazy shoe companies and stuff like that offered like huge money. But then when I look at it, they're offering all of this because they want to tap into the culture, and they want Places+Faces to be the ship that gets them to the culture. And then for them, it might work for them and their marketing teams, but yes, you did it, we've got Places+Faces, now we're cool. But then for us, it's like, oh, Places+Faces did that, yeah, they probably did that for the money. Yeah, we don't know if we can fuck with Places+Faces too more, because they're like, I don't believe in the term selling out, but I do believe there's always like a give and take for things. And then whenever I'm collabing with someone or working on something, I always like, first I like sit down and I think, how does it look with the Places+Faces narrative? And second, what's the give and take? Like, are we giving them more or are we taking more, or is it like a 50-50, you know? So it's just like turning down certain things that people are like, are you crazy? Like, why would you turn that down? Like, even people saying like, you may not ever get opportunity like this again. And then me having to be like, you know what? I'm content with that. If I don't get this opportunity again, at least in my heart of hearts, I can say that I've said no. And for some people, like, it works out, some people it doesn't, but I trust myself. So yeah.
What are you most proud of about what you've achieved so far?
I think just being able to travel freely and just building something without any backing or from like other things. It's 100% owned by myself and Souls. You know, like Souls, even within the first 3-4 years of Places+Faces, he was still working in Sainsbury's. And then me being in a position where like I can afford not to work a 9-to-5, and then telling Souls, okay, it's cool now, you don't have to work here no more. You can afford not to work like a day job anymore. Like Places+Faces is like your main thing now. And then just us being able to travel and take pictures and just enjoy life. I think that's the most prized things, that we get to enjoy what we do while doing what we love.
And lastly, what does success look like to you?
Success for me, I think it's leaving like the legacy that, you know, Places+Faces existed. You know, we documented time period. You know, I don't know how long it's lost, hopefully it lasts forever, but you know, things always happen. So just that we existed and people recognize it, and also just me kind of moving back to Gambia and then just being super comfortable out there.
Thank you for listening to Making Conversation with Grant Brydon featuring Ciesay. If you like this episode, then please be sure to rate, comment and subscribe wherever you're listening to podcasts. You can find Ciesay and Places+Faces on Instagram, as well as Places+Faces.com. You can find me on social media at Grant Brydon. Thank you to Kiki, where we recorded all of these episodes.